Don't you hate it when you're making a guitar for someone and you're making YouTube videos so you know that when you stuff up, they're going to see it? So fortunately, this is only the practice body. I put this together just out of pine, really just to work out how to get the control cavity sorted out. So the actual guitar body is looking pretty good. So I've done the two pickup routes. I've done the holes for the strings and the string ferrules, the neck screws, and have given it a round over on the top and the bottom. So this is coming along nicely. And it's really this practice body that I'm working on at the moment to get the control cavity right. Also, since the last video, I've mostly finished the neck. I've done the neck carve. I've got a little bit of work just on the transitions to fine tune them, but really it just has sanding to go on that one. And I didn't film the whole process of doing the neck. I've sort of done that in other videos. So if you just like to click this link up here, you'll be able to see how I've done that in other videos. We might come in close on the control cavity now, and I can give you a rundown of how I plan to do that using a control plate for the pots to go into, and then the control knobs essentially to stick out the side of the guitar body. So it is looking a bit messy at the moment, but these are really just tests to try out different techniques to work out the best way to do it. So it's these two on the end, which will be the way I do plan to do it, but obviously a lot neater and not as rushed as this one. So the plan is to make a plate out of this aluminium, which will fit in the cavity, and then what will happen is that the pots, so I've got these mini pots, will be drilled into the plate, and then the control knobs, which I've just mucked around with mocking up some sort of practice ones, will go over the pot. And then it should, if I get the measurements right, just clear the edge there, or just be recessed a little bit there. So essentially they'll be, the control plate will be in the cavity, the pot will go through the plate, and then the knobs will just be recessed probably a mil or two below the outside edge there of the guitar. So it's time now to make the control plate, and if that all works and fits well in the practice body, it's all good to go on the real body.
So you see, understand this song, the plate of promises, yet what remains to hold? The past caress and places all the same intention.
So the holes in the control plate I've made just slightly larger than the width of the shaft, and that's just so there's a bit of wiggle room. Obviously we want the knobs to be coming out just in the right spot, so if we need to adjust them a little bit, there's a bit of movement in there to do so. So let's have a look at what it might look like. So there we go, we've got the three pots in the control plate. There will be 2 volume and 1 tone, so the volumes will be for each pickup, and therefore you can blend both the pickups, a bit like some of the basses have. So I've got some inserts that I'll probably use to attach the knobs when I make the real ones, but let's just have a quick look to see if this works for now. They're slightly loose, but I can work on that one later. So we'll just put that one there. I haven't done the middle one properly yet on this practice one, so we'll just put the 2 outside ones on. So essentially, when they're on straight, the plate will sit in there. The knobs should poke out of those slots on the side, and you'll be able to just feel it enough there with your finger to rotate them. So there will be a little bit of play in the plate to move it into the right spot. It'll sit probably a little bit lower than that. I'll just put some blocks in the body to attach it to, and I think that should work quite nicely. So these slots on the side might need to sit a little bit deeper, or it will actually be closer to the top of the body. At the moment, I think they're right in the middle. There's probably not enough clearance up the top here. I need to recess this out for a control plate, and there's only a few mils. So I'll probably have to put them a little bit closer to the face of the guitar, only by, well, probably 2 or 3 mil, and actually reaching around the front of the guitar then. Having them closer to the face probably won't be a bad thing, because they'll be closer to your hands to move them. So I think I'm happy enough with how that has turned out on this practice body, and I think it's time now to make the cavity in the real body and get it looking nice and clean.
Not in time.
Alright, so I've got a bit of a dilemma for drilling the channel from the bridge pickup into the control cavity. So normally you would go straight through the closest direction, but I've got the bridge screws and also the holes for the strings. So if I go this way where the line is, the angle that it will have to go through because of the top of the body where the pickup is, I think it's probably too steep, and it's likely to come out the back of the guitar before the cavity. So I want to avoid that. The other way I could do it is when I've done the jack on the back and also the slots for the controls, I could then drill through this way and meet the pickup cavity. However, that's a little bit riskier, I think, because it's a smaller target to hit, and I don't want to damage the outside of the guitar. The other way that I've got is to go between the two strings. So if I go through this way, I'm going to avoid the screws for the bridge, and it'll just fit nicely between the two strings. So I'm just going to pause for a minute and think about it, but I think that is the way that I will do it. I think with the angle, the angle looks okay, and it also is drilling the shortest path as well. Alright, so I could put that down to luck, but I'm going to go with good planning instead. I'm super happy with that, right in the middle of the body, so couldn't have come out in a better place. What I'm going to do is just check that it hasn't gone through the two string holes, because the last thing I need is to be stringing up the guitar and then the string goes down the channel for the wires. So if I put this drill bit down here, I can see down the hole I've just drilled, and can't see that at all, so that one's good. Can't see that one either, so I'm pretty confident that I've missed both of those. So that is probably one of the most stressful holes that I've drilled, but the most satisfying once it's actually finished. Alright, there's one last job that I want to do before I do the slots for the controls that will come out the side, and that's actually to do the control plate. I know what the thickness is of the top of the body. It's about 5mm thick at the moment. I want to get the controls as close to the middle as possible. I know the height of the pots that will go in the side, but what I don't know at the moment is how thick that cavity is going to be. So I've got some offcuts that I had from the neck blank. At the moment, I think it's about 4.5mm thick. So what the plan is to make a control plate, or control cover I should say, out of this offcut. It'll probably be about 4mm thick, maybe down to 3. That will obviously then be recessed into the body, and then I'll know how much play I've got for this control plate to sort of go up and down, so I can get the control knobs as close to the middle as possible. So let's get that job done first, and then I think the last bit of construction that I'll have is doing those slots on the side. So it turns out trying to joint these offcuts of the neck blank is proving harder than it should be. So what I'm going to do instead, I've got some leftover body material. So on the bandsaw, what I can do is slice off one full section. Rather than trying to join 2 small bits, I'll have one full bit that I can use for the cavity cover, and I can make it whatever thickness that I want. So I think I'm going to go down that path, which is going to be a lot easier. And what I've just realised as well is this is where the body was cut from the body blank. So if I use this section here, you can see the grain patterns continuing through. So if I kind of move it up and across a bit, and if we can sort of line it up, I should be able to cut a control cavity cover where the grain pattern sort of matches up as well. I think this is going to turn out to be a much better option anyway.
Let you say the rest pass us by. For the raining begins when I fall high. To give a sentence and pray for all the same events to find.
Okay, time for a bit of maths before I move on to cutting the slots on the side. So the measurements that we've got, this is a cross section. The control cover I've cut to 4mm thick, give or take probably half a mil when I sand it. We've got the pot upside down here, which is 27mm. I want the pot as close to the middle, so sort of as far up that way. So if I leave about a 2mm gap between the cover and the pot, the knob itself will be 6mm at the end. This isn't to scale, obviously. The gap, or the hole that it'll come through, it'll be a 1/4 inch cutter that I'm using, or router bit for that. So that'll sort of fit through nicely there. And obviously the edge of that hole there will be the edge of the pot. The top of the guitar at the moment is 5mm thick. I could go a little bit narrow or smaller there, but it actually won't make any difference for for where the pot's going to be. So really, it leaves this measurement in the middle. So if we take all that away from 45, which is the thickness of the body, that leaves a gap of 7mm there for where the pot has to be. And then that means if I have to work out where the pot is, so what I really want to know is where the center of this gap will be, so right down the middle. So we've got, it'll be what, half of a 1/4 of an inch, or let's go with half a 6. And then these together, so we're probably looking at, what's that, 3mm plus 7/10 plus 5. That distance there is going to be 15mm. So I'll mock that up on the edge of the guitar and see what it looks like. So I'm all set up, ready to go. I've got a block taped on the router base at 15mm, so 15mm from the center of the router bit. So when I run this along the edge of the body, it will be right in the middle of that line. So by taking small passes, I can use this router bit to get through the 10mm thickness of the body. And then the plan is to get a slightly larger router bit and go over it again to create the recess. So You can see on this one here, which I've hacked up by now, I've tried lots of different ideas. That one was just kind of the calves and the bevels. This is really messy, but that's kind of the idea that I'm going for, that the middle channel will be this router bit that I've got here. And then I'll put a larger one on, not as large as this, and create the recess for the finger.
Not this time. And I may be blind, so what if I'm not too brave to the flying store? No, when I'm inside down, you know I'm away greater than before, greater.
There we go, there's the 3 control slots done. I'm very happy with how they've turned out. If we have a look at this top one here as an example, it's just right. So even if I move down here, yeah, just below the surface or the edge of the body, which is fantastic. And then there's enough of a recess to get your finger in to move it. So a little bit of tidying up to sand and get the burn marks out. But I'm really happy with how clean and neat they've finally turned out. So I think we might leave it there for this video. I'll continue to work on making the control cover and also the blocks that'll go on the inside so the plate can sit in there nicely at the right height. And after that, we're getting pretty close to be finishing. We still have to decide what we're going to do with the front of the body, whether we do the faux sort of pick guard, but we've got a little bit of time to work on that and to think about it. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you all next time.